So you should have the dots on your bottle. I know I showed you the little video clip with the door frame, but we're going to worry about that in a little bit. I'll quickly recap it. Right now, I'm going to go over the fin designs. All right. In your folder, you should have something that looks like this. So you're going to want to access this when you're ready to start designing the shape and the size of your fins. So all we've done yesterday was we've located where the fins want to go and how many you want. Okay, today you're going to take those marks and we're going to do two things. We're going to do the straight vertical line on the door frame, and then you're going to sand it a little bit, which I'll show you when I go back to the front of the room. Once that's done, then you have your bottle all set up for where your fins are going to go and how many you have. So the next step is to decide what you want your fins to look like. So if you look at this sheet that's in your folder, I have this big rectangle that I've drawn on this template sheet. And if you look, this rectangle is the exact full size of that white piece of fin material that you have. All right, so I traced that fin material that's in your baggie full size onto this piece of paper. Now, you're not going to follow this process as it says because you're not in person, so you don't have an iPad. You know, I have iPads in my room that you would use that have the Wind Tunnel app. So I'm going to demonstrate the Wind Tunnel app for you. But in your folder, you have that piece of paper that does show you just that basic fin design. This right here, which is boring. All right. It's not the best shape that you could have. It's a shape that would work. All right. But it's just a basic shape. Now, what happens is that straight vertical line that's on your bottle, that's where your fin is going to go. So your fin is going to be attached and glued to that straight vertical line. It's going to stick off the side of your bottle. And you're going to glue all your fins on there, probably starting tomorrow. All right. But today we're just concentrating on the shape. So you've got your white piece of material. What we're going to do is we're going to make a template. A template is a fancy word for a tracer, a pattern, stencil. It's just something that you can draw once and cut out and trace it as many times as you need. Okay, you don't want to try to draw this shape 4 or 5 times because it's not going to be the same. You're going to create one pattern. You're going to cut that pattern out called a template, and then you trace that on your material however many times you need. That way, it's going to guarantee your fins are going to be just about the same size all the time. Now, let's talk about the shape of the fins. Now, you can have a different size bottle. And that's why I talk about the size of the fin needs to be big enough so that it gives balance to your bottle. So right now, I've got showing you 4 fins. They're all pretty much the same shape. But I know right away the person that used this sample that's in my hand probably had a 2-liter bottle because they needed their fins bigger. It's the same shape, all right? But they needed more material to balance that 2-liter bottle rather than this person who might have just been using a small bottle like this. So the shape of the fin can be the same. It just might need to be larger depending on how many fins you have and how big your bottle is. All right. So now, what you're starting off with, here's a wind tunnel. It's virtual. It's called Wind Tunnel Free. Now, when I hit reset, you can see those blue lines moving down. Well, those blue lines represent air. So your rocket is going to be coming up through the air, right like that. So this app allows us to get a virtual idea of how your shape's going to cut through the air. The app has a little plus sign on it. It's the only thing. That plus sign opens up a menu. The menu allows you to draw. It allows you to use smoke or pressure. All right? But what I want to do first is I want to draw. So I'm going to click on draw. And I'm going to draw a straight line. as good as I can with my finger. Now, what that line represents is the edge of your bottle. Okay, because my fin is going to come off the straight edge of that bottle. So right there is where my fin's going to come off of. So I draw my straight line to represent the edge of my bottle. Now, if I use the fin that they gave you on that piece of paper in your folder, I'm going to draw it. It's going to look like this. Okay, that's what that fin looks like coming off of my bottle. Now you can see what it did to the air. Now the air goes around the fin, because as this rocket's shooting up through the air, obviously air is going to hit this point. So now I can also hit my menu bar. So I'm going to touch my menu, and I get something called calculate right there. So I'm going to turn on calculate, and it's going to give me a couple of numbers. It's going to give me lift. I don't care about lift. Lift is going to be created, right? Lift is the upward force put on an object. Lift is going to be created from the water and the air pressure going down. What I care about is drag. Drag is a force. So here's your first motion force. Drag is the fancy word for air rubbing on something. So the air is hitting this. The more air hits something, the slower it goes and the harder it has to work to do what it needs to. Picture yourself if you play a sport like baseball or softball. You like it when the wind is blowing out because it helps the ball go farther rather than the wind blowing in, holding the ball back. So this actually measures virtually how much drag. The higher the number, the more the air is rubbing, the slower your object's going to go. Now, the other thing I like about this app is I can also turn air particles to pressure. Watch what happens when I hit pressure. So right here, there's a lot of pressure, which makes sense because when your rocket shoots up through the air is going to hit right there. And if this isn't glued on well, the fin's going to pop right off. But that pressure spread okay, not too bad. So that fin had a drag somewhere in the upper 12s. So now I'm going to reset this. I'm going to go back to my particles, and I'm going to draw another line. And now I'm going to make a fin. I want it to look cool. So I'm going to do something like that. So it looks cool. But now you can see right there and right there. This is not a fin that's going to cut through the air very well. That's called aerodynamic. So this fin is going to have a lot of drag. When I turn on my calculations, now my drag is up in the 16s and 15. But even more importantly, watch what happens when I put on the pressure. When that rocket fires up through the air, look at all the pressure inside of that fin right there. More than likely, when this rocket fires up through the air, that pressure is going to pop that fin off. So what you're looking for is that pressure to go nice and smoothly around your object. That's why maybe a fin that looks like the ones that I showed you in the sample will work well. So same thing. I'm going to draw my line to represent the edge of my bottle. And now I'm going to make my fin a little bit curved. And then I'm going to make it look cool underneath. And you can already see now the air is flowing smoothly around that. So I'm going to hit my calculations. Now my drag is around 12 and 13 like it was with my first fin, just like it was with this sample right here. Okay, but watch the pressure. Watch what happens with all that orange. All right, it's spread out. There's always going to be pressure because air hitting something is going to cause pressure. But if you can spread that pressure out, that means that the air is going to flow smoothly around it, and your object will spend more of its energy going high rather than trying to fight through that air. So when you find a shape that you like, so if you have an iPad or you have an iPhone, go to the App Store, and I put it in the Google Classroom, or I'll put it back in the chat. It's called Wind Tunnel Free, and you can play around with different shapes just like that. But once you find a shape you like, then you need to get it onto this piece of paper. So everything I just showed you, number one, I got my iPad. I used the Wind Tunnel app. On the Wind Tunnel app, I drew a straight line that represents the edge of my bottle. And then I experimented with shapes. Now, if you don't have an iPad or a virtual wind tunnel, don't worry about it. We already know that a curved shape is going to allow the air to go around it and have less pressure. Okay. But if you are able to download this app, then you can follow these 4 or 5 steps right to a T. But otherwise, you're going to do this. You're going to try to play around with shapes that you like. And when you finally find one you like, you're going to draw it full size on this green fin design final drawing template sheet. All right. You're going to show it to me before you cut it out. That's called a quality control check. Once you have the design that you like on this green piece of paper, show it to me. You also have to make sure that your fin is small enough to get however many of them you want out of this piece of paper, because this paper represents your white piece of fin material. Unless you're going to use cardboard from home, then you need to get all your fins out of that one strip of paper. So this fin's a little large right here. I can have the same shape, but I can make it smaller. So that's a lot of information. I'll post again later on today. I'll post this video online. But your goal for today is, number one, to get the dots onto your bottle from your paper ruler. And I can still help you with that once we start. Then use that door frame as best you can to get straight vertical lines on the edge of your bottle. All right. Once you have those straight vertical lines on the edge of your bottle, you're going to use some sandpaper. All right. There's some sandpaper in your baggie, and you're going to rough up where the lines go. Everywhere a fin's going to go, you're going to rub the sandpaper on your bottle and scratch it a little bit. And you're also going to rub the sandpaper right here and scratch that a little bit. Okay. Why do you think we scratch where the fin lines are and on the top of this bottle? Why do you think we scratch there? Why are we going to rough that up? Somebody unmute and let me know.
Because